If you've been told to do Kegels and still leak, then you are in the right place. I know that can be super frustrating, which is why I've created today's video and why I want to share with you the reason Kegels or any exercise for that matter hasn't worked to stop your leakage. In order for any exercise to work, there are 5 key elements that you need to have in place, and I'll be giving you those exact 5 elements in today's video. My name is Rachel, and I'm a pelvic health physical therapist and coach. So Kegels are often pegged as the go-to pelvic floor exercise, and we're typically given this with little direction, but from some very trusted sources like your mom, your friend, or even your doctor. A lot of times it is coming from the doctor. The problem with that is it's not really given within any context of where you are as an individual. In order for any of these exercises to work, you really need to know, one, if they'll even solve the problem that you have, the specific cause of your leakage, and you need to know the proper dose. And you won't get that simply by being told to just do Kegels. That leads me to 2 questions that you need to be able to answer. One, will Kegels even work for my problem? And number 2, if they do work, how and when should I be doing them? So first things first, will Kegels even work for you? In order to answer that question, you have to know where you are. What is your exact starting point? For a lot of women that leak, there are usually other things going on to indicate pelvic floor problems. For example, if you strain to poop or have struggled with constipation at any point in your life, you could also have created a very weak but tense pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor needs to be able to open and close, and this is not at all a conscious process. Our bodies know what to do, but when we interrupt the process by rushing, straining, bearing down to poop, or even holding it in when we feel the urge, we disrupt the process and the actual pathway for things to come out. We begin to have problems not only with pooping, but we can also create a perfect environment to leak. And so in that example, Kegels would not be my recommendation as the starting point for someone that has difficulty relaxing to have a bowel movement, or someone who doesn't feel like they completely empty when they pee or poop. On the flip side, because there's always another angle to consider, if you have extreme flexibility, like you're one of these people that can stand up with your legs straight and then bend over and touch your palms flat on the ground, or you've ever been told that you're double jointed, you may be more likely to have instability or weakness. And if that coincides with leakage, then Kegels could be a very useful tool for you, but you still need guidance on the how and the where. If you're holding your breath and squeezing your butt to perform a Kegel, the position would have to be modified for that specific exercise to be most effective. Sitting at the light and doing Kegels, but you're squeezing your butt, is not really going to be effective just for your pelvic floor. So if Kegels are indicated, when do you do them? And this is what I liken to dosing. So once you've been able to identify what your problem is and that Kegels work for you, you still need to know the frequency and the position that I just mentioned. So how often, how many times a day, a week, or a month? It's like if your doctor prescribed you a new medication. You need to know the name, the amount you're supposed to take, how many times a day, and what else you need to do to make this medication most effective. So for example, I was recently diagnosed with anemia, and so that's not a super big deal. A lot of people are anemic, but my doctor prescribed me iron. So when I go to the pharmacy to pick up the medication, I get the name, I get the dose, but what I was also told is that I need to take vitamin C in order to make the iron more, to increase the absorbency of the iron. And that's what I like to call the magic combination as it relates to exercise and pelvic floor function. You need the perfect pairing for any exercise to be effective and to stop your leakage. And I'll break that down into 5 elements. The first element is focused breathing. How you breathe typically gets the least attention, but it is so important. We're typically not taught how to breathe, but the diaphragm, which sits right under the rib cage, works in direct correlation with your pelvic floor. So if you're someone who holds your breath, tightens your jaw, or clenches your teeth, and even holds your belly or sucks it in, those are things that create tension in the pelvic floor. And just like I mentioned earlier, a very tense pelvic floor can also be a very, very weak pelvic floor, which is why exercises that shorten and tighten the muscles like Kegels will not stop leakage. You have to address and most likely retrain how you breathe to even get a proper pelvic floor contraction. The second and third elements are restful sleep and efficient recovery. So how you sleep may seem completely unrelated, but I'm here to tell you it really isn't. Proper sleep hygiene and the number of hours you get at night can tell me a lot about how your pelvic floor works. So before doing Kegels, I like to know, are you waking up multiple times at night to pee? Do you have racing thoughts that are interrupting your sleep? And do you feel the need to consume lots of caffeine during the day because you're waking up tired? I always like to say a hydrated, well-rested muscle performs a lot better than a tired and dehydrated muscle, which is why trying to do exercises for muscles that don't really get a chance to recover and are actually overactive doesn't usually yield good results. So we need planned recovery days and a way to manage stress to really help you manage leakage. And we're not just talking about a mani-pedi, we're talking about an actual strategy. So if the pelvis is like a storage unit for pain and stress, this is a place where we hold a lot of our emotions. So techniques like journaling and mindfulness are the keys that we need to really unlock that unit and start clearing things out, because if we don't have that, Kegels or any exercise won't be effective. The fourth element is diet. I know we really can't get away from it, but in order for any exercise to work, you really don't want the things that you're eating and drinking to cancel out all of your hard work. So there can be irritants that you consume by way of what you're drinking, but also by way of what you're eating. And then sometimes what you're not consuming can become an irritant. So if you don't consume enough flat water, and I'm talking water that doesn't have any fizz, water that doesn't have artificial sweeteners added from those cute little packets. We're talking just plain flat water. If you don't consume enough of that, your urine can become more concentrated, and then that becomes an irritant. So not having enough flat water can be just as much of an irritant as some of the more commonly known irritants as coffee or soda. The fifth and final element is healthy movement. So usually exercise is one of the last things that I teach, and it's definitely not something that I jump right into, because we need to know what is going on with your pelvic floor. There are several behaviors that need to be unlearned. For example, I mentioned straining to poop earlier as one of them. And stopping leakage is not just about specifically exercising the pelvic floor. We want healthy movement that involves cardio, resistance training, core stability, breath work. All of these are much more than Kegels or specific pelvic floor exercises. And believe it or not, just moving your body through a 10-minute walk each day can do wonders for your pelvic floor. Remember earlier I said that your pelvic floor is supposed to open and close. So you want healthy movement that encourages the ability to do both. So walking, yoga, hip stretches, all of those type of exercises can do that without diminishing your muscles to only doing the squeezing side of things, which is usually done through Kegels or just pelvic floor exercises. So I want to thank you for watching. I hope this helps you and brings you more clarity as to why the exercises you're doing haven't worked. And if this resonated with you and you want to dive deeper to your specific needs, schedule a one-on-one call with me using the link below.